Popular depictions of the Ten Commandments almost always feature this image: Moses descending Mount Sinai with the laws split sequentially between two stone tablets. Splitting a single legal text across two separate stones is a later invention that ignores the actual legal standards of the ancient world. Ancient records suggest a different reality. These two tablets were identical, complete copies of the exact same text. This duplication served a specific purpose. The biblical covenant was engineered using the localized legal frameworks of ancient Near Eastern geopolitics. The Torah given at Sinai followed the structure of a highly recognizable international contract known as a suzerain vassal treaty. Upon arriving at the rugged Sinai Peninsula, the Israelites entered a period of profound geographical and political isolation. During this era, the dominant superpower to the north was the Hittite Empire, centered in modern-day Turkey. The Hittites maintained their expansion by securing loyalty from subordinate nations through legal contracts rather than constant military occupation. These contracts defined the relationship between a suzerain, the sovereign ruler, and a vassal, the subordinate nation. By adopting this specific imperial contract format, the biblical text established a relationship with Israel using the most recognizable legal language of their culture. A structural comparison between Hittite treaties and Exodus reveals a precise architectural alignment. Both begin with a preamble identifying the sovereign ruler. The second clause is the historical prologue, mirroring God's declaration, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt." In this section, the suzerain lists past benevolences to establish that obedience is a response to the ruler's previous protection and help. Placing these redemptive acts before the laws transforms the Torah into a relational response to rescue. The Hittite format differs significantly from the treaties drafted by the Assyrian Empire in the first millennium BCE. Unlike their second millennium predecessors, Assyrian treaties completely lack a historical prologue. Assyrian rule relied on state-sponsored terror and brutality, which removed the diplomatic need to engender a sense of gratitude from their vassals. The presence of this prologue in Exodus aligns the text with second millennium Hittite conventions rather than later Assyrian ones. This structural similarity supports an earlier composition for the Pentateuch, presenting a challenge to theories that argue for a late first millennium authorship. This comparative model also extends to the enforcement of the contract through designated witnesses. While Hittite treaties called upon a vast pantheon of gods to witness the agreement, the biblical text subverts this requirement. In the absence of other gods, the text designates heaven and earth as the legal witnesses to the covenant. The laws that follow serve as the treaty's stipulations, divided into absolute and conditional categories. Apodictic Torah consists of absolute, unconditional imperatives, such as the core prohibitions of the Ten Commandments. Casuistic Torah provides conditional case law, establishing specific punishments for nuanced societal infractions. This combination of absolute morality and case-by-case legal infrastructure provided a functioning justice system from the nation's inception. Every suzerainty treaty required deposition, the physical storage and regular reading of the contract. International law mandated two identical copies, one for the vassal and one to be kept in the sanctuary of the suzerain. Moses followed this legal requirement by depositing the suzerain's copy of the treaty into the Ark of the Covenant. The two tablets represent the execution of this standard legal requirement, ensuring both parties held a master copy of the covenant. In Hebrew, Torah translates more accurately as instruction, the architectural blueprint for a society. This societal architecture is organized into a three-part functional matrix. The moral domain involves demands on the heart and will that often exist outside of a formal court system. Commands prohibiting idolatry fit this framework, where divine jealousy is the expected legal response to a breached marriage covenant. The civil domain manages the pragmatic administration of justice, covering everything from property rights to the treatment of the vulnerable. Together, these domains translate internal ethical purity into the external treatment of neighbors within the community. The final domain is ritual Torah, defining the boundaries for sacred space, sacred time, and ceremonial purity. Ritual laws instilled the constant awareness that all of life is lived under the jurisdiction of the suzerain. Even mundane instructions regarding diet or cleanliness served as reminders of a continuous divine presence. God utilized the most sophisticated legal structure of the ancient world to build this new society. By adopting the suzerain-vassal treaty, the Torah successfully translated divine instruction into a fully functional geopolitical reality.